I'm not into titles and labels and classifications and categorizations and compartmentalizing people and labeling them and putting tags on them and all that stuff. So I don't use the term white people or black people. Just for argument's sake, I'm going to use that because I have to convey a message to you. But the reason why black folks are ostracized is because they are the originals, the indigenous tribes of this earth. They were here first. I mean, as far as the hominoids are concerned, not the extraterrestrials, and certainly not, the star seeds and so on and so forth. But they themselves are star seeds. Absolutely, they are. But they have a closer connection to Mother Earth. That's why they're more intuitive. The younger generations, no, the older generations, they were very spiritually gifted. Absolutely, passed down from the generations. You'll see it from time to time, but it's become so diluted in this mechanical system that it's basically non-existent anymore. But if you take, for example, like I did another video where I'm trying to impress upon you that, we're not human beings, a part of the same race, because race is a synthetic term. That's why you get racism. There aren't different races of people. There's different species coming from different planets. When they say racism, they're inferring that you're black and I'm white and we're opposite, so we have to fight each other. That's where that classism and racism comes from. That's just an artificial terminology. It's a synthetic term designed to do exactly what it does and creates division and conflict. What I'm referring to is the fact that we're all each from different original home source energy planets. That's why people look different. They're not people, but I'm just going to use that name. For an example, I'll give you. Let's say you have 10 people, they're all the same. Call them black people, right? And then you have 5 men, 5 women, right? And they each pair up into couples and they go to separate parts of the earth. Like, let's say one couple goes to Asia, one couple goes to North America, another couple goes to South America, so on and so forth. Over the course of time, they're not going to evolve into Asian people with light skin or Caucasian people with European features. This is what they'll have you believe, that, it started with mitochondrial Eve, and then it evolved into somebody who looks like me. We're all from the same soul family. We're all from the same source being Creator God Almighty. But to infer that people have evolved into completely different species, completely entirely different aesthetic appearances, is just ridiculous. Because of what? Because of the landscape and the environment, the food they were eating. We're all eating the same food. It's the same earth. It's the same earth. It doesn't matter what you're eating. You could be eating carrots and vegetables, or you could be eating pigs and cows, and you're not going to evolve into something completely entirely different than what you are anatomically. It isn't going to happen. Over time, the body might become acclimated to that geographical location. That's a given, but it isn't going to change you anatomically as far as your skull thickness, your pigmentation permanently. And, if you really analyze that situation, you can clearly see why what they're saying is not true. Some people were naturally born to be in those types of environments. Like the people that win the marathons all every year, I think they're from Nigeria. They are some of the best long distance runners because where they live, the air is thin, so they have a very good lung capacity, and they have a very dark pigmentation because there it's exceedingly hot and dry. So they have the perfect adaptation to that environment because nature made it so, because that's how they were from when they came here, when they were sent here, when they were brought here. And I'm quite sure it evolved into the same thing, but just a better version of that. You don't see the Nigerian runners, evolving into a Caucasian man like me, or vice versa, or an Asian or something that you'd classify as somebody from Asia. So you have to really analyze what's going on. I mean, even though science is telling you this and this is a medical fact, I don't believe anything they say because the first of everything was brought here. It's like, let me give you an example before I cut the video short. When you have a construction site, and like, let's say you designate an acre of land is where you're going to build your home, but in its pristine state, there's nothing there. It's just an empty lot. So now you've designated where this building site is going to be. That's the first step. What's the next step? You have to start bringing the supplies to the site, the tools, the parts, the supplies. Then you need the workers to put everything together. And then you need the people to deliver it there. And the man hours it takes just to get this assembly completed. And that takes weeks. Well, the earth is no different. Once the universe created the earth, everything was brought here. All of the animals, people, all of it, human beings, all of it, whatever you want, whatever you want to call it, extraterrestrials, Sasquatch, there's so many things in the woods you have no idea. We have no idea what's even in those woods. Things you can't see, things you'll never see, things you don't even know, things you'll never know. I mean, look at the oceans. I think it was like up until 15 years ago, maybe a little more, when they finally saw the giant squid for the first time in all of human history. It was this elusive mythical creature that they would see in depictions of these sailors making these long voyages of these gigantic, leviathan coming out of the water with these tentacles, and that's an old sailor's myth. Come to find out, it wasn't, because Russian trawlers have been pulling in sperm whales for decades with suction cup marks on them 24 inches in diameter. If you extrapolate the measurement of that suction mark in juxtaposition to how big that animal would be, it has been calculated that the giant squid would be well over 225 feet long, which exponentially exceeds the size of the largest known mammal on Earth, which is the blue whale. So there you go again, that science knows nothing about the very Earth that they live upon. So to infer that humans are all in the same clique is to say that the blue whale is the largest animal on Earth. Again, they're wrong. That's what the topic of this video is. I'm trying to say, you can have 50 people, say white people. It doesn't matter what they are. If you have 50 of the same and you scatter them around the earth, and then you come back in a few million years, do you honestly think they're going to transform into black or Asian when that's anatomically something that's beyond the capacity of their procreative abilities? Think about it. Now, naturally, they will adapt to the environment, of course, but those will be subtle changes. They won't be so drastic that they will transform into something entirely different. They're trying to say that dinosaurs have evolved into modern day birds, and people believe it. A Tyrannosaurus Rex that is like 60 feet tall is now a little parakeet. And people believe this stuff. Megalodon, which was an 80-foot shark that they believe was not related to Carcharodon carcharias, the great white, but it was somehow a cousin of it or a distant relative, that it somehow just, evolved into a guppy. It's just, you have to really question everything they tell you, especially when it comes to things regarding your own life, because they're just making it up as they go. And why is that? Because they weren't even here when this place was created. Unless you were actually present when something was created, it's all speculation, opinion, hypothesis, theory, and conjecture, which is just a fancy word for somebody's belief that they feel that this was the way it was, like the Big Bang Theory and all that. That's all nonsense. It's all made up. They don't know anything. How could you? You are looking at something that you had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the creation of, but here you stand and speculate and pontificate, and you give all of these detailed explanations and descriptions to things that you had nothing whatsoever to do with the creation of, but they put these superfluously convoluted nomenclature that they superimpose over everything. It's like a blanketed story. We're supposed to just buy into it. Like today, there was an earthquake in New York, and they're all saying it's a 4.8, but it was man-made. Yesterday, last night, the Statue of Liberty was hit with a lightning bolt right in her arm, right where the torch is. That was deliberately man-made. And now they have a little special thing going for the eclipse coming up on Monday. It seems that NASA's going to be launching some pretty heavy duty stuff with the eclipse. So they have plans, and they're not good ones. So this falls in lockstep with everything that you've been taught and told that science is, offering you as far as the only explanation there is. I mean, look at Pluto, for God's sake. First it's a planet, then it's not a planet, then it is a planet, then it's made of ice. It doesn't categorize as a planet, so now it's off that list again, you know? And they send their satellites out and they say, well, the core of the sun is this, and they don't even know what they're talking about. The core of the sun? You can't even get close enough to the sun to study what's in there. They create these machines that feed back data that they programmed. So in other words, they're actually getting their own answers that they supplied these machines with, because of course it's going to concur. Of course it's going to be in alignment with the data and the information that they're looking for, because they're the ones that program these freaking things. It's going to tell them exactly what they want to hear. And they're going to come to you and say, well, the core of the sun is this and that. And they don't even know, they know nothing. There's no scientist alive that can tell you who created the universe, when, why, where, and how. They can't. And they never will. Why? Because human beings weren't created. It's just that simple. Human beings are not around long enough to have that happen. It's up to the universe to transmute you into things. Mother Nature can only do so much. But there's no way you're going to take a Tyrannosaurus Rex and that's going to evolve into a parakeet. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It just won't happen. I mean, that's what they tell you because you believe them and you don't question it because there's no way to actually do any type of investigation or research. And they know that. That's how they got you. But everything they say, they just make it up. All of these names they give things. If these scientists didn't tell you what these things were, what would they be? If you didn't know a blue whale was a blue whale, what would it be? If they just decided not even to address it, not even give it a name, what would it be? You see what I'm saying? All you know is what they've shown you and what they tell you, so you accept that as the truth. And we're supposed to accept this as the absolute truth. And I do not, and I never will. I think science is cool for some things when it works for the benefit of the earth. But when it works against it, that's when, I'm like, no. But when they start to take this pretentious perch and they start pontificating as if they're gods themselves, no, that's when I'm out. Because there's no human being that had anything whatsoever to do with the creation of the earth or the universe or anything thereof. Nothing. That's why human beings are the newest to this planet, not the oldest. So if you're the newest kid on the block, and all of the residents have been there for billions of years, how in God's name are you going to teach them anything about a place they've been there for billions of years? What could you possibly teach them that they don't already know? And here comes science, which is only, 3,000 years old? And it's the end all be all to the everything of everything. I mean, really, folks, it's just silly at this point. It really is.